Ladies and gentlemen, now hosting the RizzoCast, put your hands together for Steven Risotto!
What is going on, everybody, and welcome. This is episode number 99 of RizzoCast. I'm Steven Risotto, and today we are joined by a very special guest. He pitched in parts of 12 seasons at the big league level with the Washington Nationals, the Milwaukee Brewers, Toronto Blue Jays, and the Oakland A's from 2008 to 2019. It is Marco Estrada. Marco joins the show. Marco, how you doing? Welcome.
Good. Thanks for having me, Steven. Appreciate it.
So spring training has started. That's obviously the big news right now, and players are in uniform, ready to go, and they're just about to some of them have started games already. Most of them have. As a player, what was kind of spring training like for you? Was it more kind of getting the mind back into baseball after a long winter off, or, throwing bullpens? Tell me kind of what spring training in this time was like for you.
It depends on what part of my career we're talking about. But early on, it was from day one. As soon as the season's over, I didn't really rest much. It was, get everything going. So by the time I showed up to spring training, I was in mid-season form, ready to go. Yeah. And the older I got, the more I realized, I'm wasting too many bullets early on. And I started pushing things back and basically would use spring training for all my bullpens and get all the work done, So I guess having that a little bit of a veteran's knowledge helped me out towards the end. But I just realized early on it was way too much work too early. And, you don't want to blow out halfway through the season because you were exhausted from all the work in the off season.
And go ahead.
It was just, but I remember just getting ready, getting the phone call to show up, whatever the date was, and you get those nerves all over again. And it was a lot of fun showing up to spring training, seeing the guys again.
And at what point do you show up? Because I know some guys have been in Arizona or Florida for a few weeks before camp starts. So when would the process start for you to kind of start hauling everything over?
Oh man. Yeah, that was always the toughest part, was flying over. You've got a bunch of suitcases, or if you ship your car, I always shipped my car. If I was in Florida, I shipped my car over and I just loaded up with everything. Take, enough clothes to last me about a week. And but I would try to show up the day of, basically. I didn't want to be there any longer than I had to. And I just made sure maybe a day before, just to check in, get everything settled in, and get things going. But yeah, I wasn't one of those guys that would show up weeks before.
And of course, there's the shortened spring training this year. Did you ever feel like spring training was just way too long? Because I hear that a lot with a lot of people in the industry. They just say it's way too long. It drags on. It goes on too long.
It did. It was, I feel like spring training's meant for the starting pitchers. You can only pitch every fifth day, and unfortunately you have to wait 5 days to pitch, but we have to get our repetitions in. And I did used to think it was a little too long, maybe 2 weeks too long. I would like to show up and just be ready for the games and get games going. That's where all your practice is. But you got to recap everything, you got to go over signs, you got to get to know everybody. So I understand why there's a few extra weeks in there.
And you've been out of the game now for a few years, and I saw a rumor a few years ago that you were trying to return to the big leagues before 2020. Do you still have the itch to come back?
No, not anymore. So yeah, I had spoke to someone, and they kind of announced my retirement for me, and I wasn't very happy about that. So but I was trying to, I was kind of on the fence. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to retire yet. And the person I spoke with kind of took it as I'm retired and announced it for me. I don't know why he did that, but so I never really got to announce my retirement. But at the end of 2019, I thought about it. I was starting to feel a little bit better, since I basically took all of 19 off. And once COVID hit, and I saw the rules, and I just didn't want to go through all that again. And I still didn't feel 100%. So I didn't want to show up, feel good for a few weeks and then be on the IL again. So that was kind of, once I saw the rules for COVID, that's what put me over the fence and just decided to hang them up.
And now watching the game, of course, kind of as a former player, are there any teams that you're still keeping tabs on? I'm sure you also have some friends in the game. Are you still watching Brewers games and Blue Jays games, or maybe some of your buddies playing?
Yeah, I actually I watched a lot of the Toronto games and a lot of the Oakland games. I still keep in contact with a lot of those guys. So I cheer for my friends and people I know. It's always fun watching them, but I haven't watched a ton of baseball. But I enjoy it. If I catch a game, especially if a buddy of mine's playing, I'll definitely try to watch it.
And let's get into your career a little bit. I know you were born in Mexico and grew up there for the first few years of your life. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Well, I was so young. I do remember a lot, but I just know it wasn't the greatest of areas where I grew up. I remember hanging out with my friends past once the sun went down. So who knows what time it was, but I'm thinking to myself, I couldn't have been that old, 5, 6 years old. And it was just a different lifestyle. And I don't think things would have worked out the way they did if we would have stayed there. So my mom definitely made the right decision on crossing the border.
And I read, or I saw the documentary that the sports station in Toronto did, and it described kind of the relationship with you and your mother and how you guys are close. I mean, describe that relationship, especially after moving to the States and enduring some of the hardships that you guys endured there early on.
Yeah, so I'm an only child, and my mom is a single parent, so it's just us two. So obviously you're gonna grow up to be very close. I'm in Arizona, and she lives out here now with me. We're from California, but we moved out here about 11 years ago, and I finally got her out here a few years ago. We have a very close relationship. I see her. Actually, she lived with me for the last 4 or 5 months while we were under construction with this house. But now we finally moved in yesterday, and I'll still see her probably at least 2-3 times a week. She lives 2 miles away, so yeah, we keep a close relationship, and she means the world to me. All the struggles and the hard work she had to go through to show or let me have a good life means the world to me, and yeah, something I'll never forget.
And growing up in Southern California, it's definitely a rich baseball area. I think Northern California has some rich baseball area parts, and we know about, the Arizonas and the Floridas of the world. How did you kind of first get involved with baseball? Was it love right off the bat, or was there kind of some initial, struggles that you had there?
I had a few family members that were playing, and I would watch. My grandma watched a lot of baseball, so I would, kind of sit with her and watch some games. And then one year when I was older, probably 6 or 7, my mom just came up to me and said, "Hey, listen, I don't want you getting into trouble. So you have to pick a sport, any sport. I don't care what it is, but you're going to do something." So I said, "Fine, let's try some baseball." And I didn't get to play T-ball because I was already too old for that. So it was the first year of kids actually pitching, and they have no control. So I got hit a lot that year, and I hated it. I told my mom, "This is it's ridiculous how often I'm getting hit. What's the point?" So she let me take one season off and then asked me again, "You have to do something." And during that span, I played a lot of wiffle ball with my cousins. And I think I got a lot better during that span. So once she asked me again what I wanted to do, I told her, "I think I'm ready for baseball again." And after that, I just fell in love and, played the rest of my life.
I want to ask you about pitching at a junior college, because I think that there's a major stigma around it. And oftentimes players feel, there's a lot of players, first of all, that feel like they're too good to play at a junior college. And for others, it might be the only route they have to get to the big leagues or to get drafted. And you played junior college in Glendale, California, and there's thousands of JUCO players across the country. How significant are these types of schools and these types of programs to kind of develop, or at least in your case, develop your talent?
Oh, they're very important. Obviously, it's where I came from. It shows that it is possible to make it from junior college. There's been a lot of guys that have gone to junior college, transferred over to D1 program, and then get drafted. But in my case, I guess I was a late bloomer. I didn't make varsity till my senior year, so I had no other choice. But if I wanted to keep playing, junior college was the only route to take. And I was fortunate enough to go play at Glendale Community College, and things just kind of took off from there. But if it wasn't for junior college, I had no chance of going to a D1 program. And I don't remember getting any even D2s or anything like that. So I had to go to junior college, and thankfully they were around, and I was able to go that route, and things worked out.
I saw a stat, and it was an ESPN broadcast, and it was Ole Miss versus Auburn, and they showed a graphic, and it said draftees on MLB rosters, and it said like 4-year colleges 63%, high school 30%, and 2-year college 7%. But I was thinking to myself, I was like, it didn't count in the amount of players that end up going to a 4-year college from community college. So
Right.
definitely, and I could definitely tell when a guy, if I'm watching a Stanford game down here in the Bay Area, I could tell which of those guys went to a community college. There's like an aura and a grindiness about them. I mean, it definitely shows. And there's a stretch for you where you thought your career was over right after junior college. I know you were looking to transfer into Long Beach State, and then there's an issue with a class. What happened there?
So I was told to take certain classes. I was only a few units away from being able to transfer over, and I had all summer to take whatever they needed me to. So I just needed one class. I don't remember what it was, but they enrolled me into something. I took it all semester, passed it. I get back, and they're like, "We gave you the wrong class to take, so we can't transfer you over." I couldn't believe it, because it just seems like such a weird thing to mess up, such a small thing. And I probably should have done a better job of looking into it, but I think it worked out, because Long Beach State, the year I transferred, the year before, the year I was supposed to transfer, they had 3 extremely talented pitchers, and I'm not sure I would have cracked that rotation. So I think it was a blessing in disguise for sure. But yeah, I had to miss out an entire season because of that.
And I was actually just in Long Beach. I went to a Long Beach State, North Dakota game. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on. I was looking at the banners up there, and you got a banner. Do you ever go back to Long Beach State and kind of just, say hello to anybody that you may know that's still there?
Yeah, I try to make the alumni games, but I haven't been to one in a few years. It's hard with baseball. You're always busy. But now that I've stopped, I wanted to go the following season, but COVID happened, so couldn't go. And then COVID's been kind of lingering around, but I think, things are freed up now, and California isn't so strict. So hopefully I think I just missed it, or it's about to happen. I'm not sure. I haven't paid attention, but if the next one hasn't happened yet, I wouldn't mind going. If not, for sure next year. But I need to do a better job of communicating with those guys. I used to talk to Buckley all the time, who ran the program for a few years there, but he's no longer there. And I don't know the new guy yet, so I need to reach out and see how things are going out there.
And you played with 2 absolute studs at Long Beach State. There's a few studs, but the 2 in particular, Tulowitzki and Evan Longoria. Was it clear that those 2 guys were just better than everybody else? And was it clear that they would be the obviously future studs at the big league level? Was it cool to kind of reunite also with Tulowitzki later on in Toronto?
Yeah, you could tell right away, especially with Tulo. He was the man, it's all you had heard about coming up. And once I was a teammate, I already knew who he was. I knew this guy was going to be a first-round pick. And then you watch him play, and you know why the hype was there. But as the season went on, we learned that Longoria was an extremely talented player also. But he transferred from junior college also that year.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, great player. Above, head above everybody else, just like Tulo. But if it wasn't for those two, if those two weren't hitting, we weren't going to score very many runs that year. So it was good to have those guys on the team. And it is crazy that one was, the third baseman, the other was a shortstop. So that left side was really solid over there in Long Beach State. And then with the Blue Jays, when Tulo got traded from Colorado, it was good to see him again. Same guy, didn't change. So it was great to be have him back behind you, playing short. Just an amazing player.
And former Giant John Bowker was on one of those teams too.
Yeah, I actually didn't play with Bowker, but I knew of him, and we had talked before. But yeah, I didn't get to play with him.
Yeah, he might have been a few years before, or a year or two before.
Yeah.
And then, so you were drafted in the sixth round in 2005 by the Nationals. I think that was their first draft ever, right? As the Nationals. Did you know anything about the franchise at the time? Obviously, you knew that they were formerly the Expos, but what did you know at the time about the Montreal, or the Washington Nationals, because they were rather new?
Right. Yeah, I didn't know anything about them. I was a big Dodger fan growing up. I knew West Coast teams. And sorry, I know it's a Giants station, but this is growing up. I was a huge Dodger fan. So I didn't really pay attention to anything on the East Coast. And most of the teams I was talking to while I was at Long Beach State were out of the West Coast. So it was weird that one team I didn't really get to talk to was Washington. They ended up drafting me. Didn't know much, but I was just happy to be drafted. So it didn't matter by who.
Now, where were you and what were you doing when you found out that you had gotten picked?
So I was home with my mom, and we're watching the computer. We're watching the ticker go by, and just naming kids off left and right. And I had heard a certain gap between rounds that I'd be drafted in, and I think the highest I had heard was the fifth. And once the fifth round passed, I was really upset. So I said, you know what, forget this. I'll go back to college if I have to. I walked away. My mom stayed on watching, and rounds were passing by. I'm like, I can't believe I'm not getting drafted. And she ends up telling me, oh my God, I completely missed it. But you were like the second or third pick in the sixth round. So I'm like, oh my God, I've been upset this whole time. I've already been drafted. I didn't even know. Then a few seconds later, I get a phone call explaining that I just got drafted. But yeah, it was kind of like a bittersweet moment. I was so angry and upset that I wasn't drafted higher, but things worked out.
Sixth round, that's not too bad. And I guess you could say it took time for you to kind of establish yourself as a big league starter. I think the first time you threw over 100 innings in the big leagues was 2012 with the Brewers. When guys are up and down in the big leagues and are getting selected off waivers or moving from team to team, I think as an outsider, many fans think it's a normal occurrence. But how much does not being able to establish yourself kind of weigh on a player from a mental standpoint?
It's very draining. And that's why, a lot of GMs try not to bring up guys so young, so fast, because if they don't cut it the first few months, they'll get sent down. And it's taxing. It's an experience no one wants to go through. Most major leaguers have probably gone through it, but it's tough being sent down. It happened to me, and you get back down and you start second guessing yourself, and you just negative thoughts running through your head. So it is tough, and it's tough to bounce back from that. But I think the guys that get back up are the ones that are mentally strong. Physically, most of them have the ability to be a major leaguer, but it is that mental aspect that I think keeps major leaguers up there.
Did you ever feel like you Did you ever get to the point where you felt like you belonged, or maybe like felt safe, like maybe going into
Yeah,
spring training every year and like not having to worry about making the team or anything like that?
right. It took a while. Even with the Brewers, I never felt like I had a job, even though going through arbitration, you get a pay raise and whatnot. So you figured you're going to have the job, but there's always that what if. But I think once I got to the Blue Jays, and it wasn't even after my first season, it was, I think, 2016. So this is much, much later in my career. That's when it finally felt like, okay, I think I can stop worrying about making a team. We're going to be okay. But yeah, it took a very long time.
And did you ever go to arbitration?
I didn't. One year I got close, and then just last minute, numbers went up or whatever and settled. But
because I always hear that that's like the worst experience.
Yeah, well, they're going to say some not so nice things about you. All your negative flaws, they're gonna comment on them. So I'm sure it's not fun to hear. So I'm glad I didn't go through it, but it would have been nice, I guess, to see one. But then I feel like I would have regretted it after hearing all the negative talk about me.
You walked too many guys, or
yeah, right.
Yeah. And then from a pitching standpoint, what kind of started to click?
What started to click?
Yeah, so like, you mentioned maybe after going to Toronto, what kind of started to click from a pitching perspective to make you realize that, you were good enough to stay and feel a little bit more comfortable?
Yeah, well, I think that's what, maybe it was the 2015 year, but it was halfway through the season where mentally I just felt better about myself. That team gave me a lot of confidence, and it pushed me to become even better. And I just felt like I was a much better player than I thought I was. So, I was mentally stronger than I was in Milwaukee, even though I probably had better stuff in Milwaukee, but for some reason I had good years, but I just never felt like I was one of the guys. And like I said, once again, getting traded to Toronto, those guys just pushed me to get better and made me feel a lot better about myself, that I belong and that I was a talented player. So they just gave me a lot of confidence.
And whenever I think of your career and you as a pitcher, and I think a lot of people will echo this, I always think of the fact that you were the owner of an absolute filthy changeup. I mean, Marco Estrada changeup. That's always what I would think. What was the key to throwing it, and how did that pitch kind of become a big weapon for you?
Yeah, I didn't have anything else. So it was either that or I'm going to give up a lot of runs. But yeah, it was in the minor leagues, just things. I didn't pitch very well in the minor leagues, at least early on in the first couple of years in the start of my minor league career. But one day I was playing catch with one of the first round kid, and he had a really good changeup. And I just asked him how he held it, and he showed me a normal four seam circle grip, nothing special. And I'd never really thrown a changeup. And I said, you know what, I'm going to start trying this because nothing else is working. So started throwing a changeup that day. He told me, I got really positive feedback from it, telling me, dude, it's good. Like, use it. Went out, pitched with it first day, had a really good outing. And it just kind of stuck with me since. Yeah. But I don't ever think I thought about what I was doing with it. I just literally just grabbed the ball and threw it. And the later I got into my career, I think I started realizing my lower half would just kind of shut down, but I would keep the same arm speed. And I think that's what sold my changeup so much.
Do you feel like your way of attacking hitters is maybe going extinct with everyone? Everyone's throwing 95, 96, even starting pitchers, and with wipeout secondary stuff. Is there still room in the game for like finesse pitchers, guys who are 88 to 92 with the fastball with some really good secondary stuff? Are those days over?
No way. They'll never be over. There'll always be those guys. There's guys that are probably still throwing 85 miles an hour and getting the job done. I don't see those days ever going away. And you're right. Everybody is throwing 95 plus. But I think for hitters, you start getting used to that. It's a timing thing, right? It's always timing for hitters. You get someone the next day that's throwing 85 to 90, it's going to throw off their timing big time. So I don't think that'll ever go extinct.
So I want to get your thoughts on a few of these issues here that were kind of talked about in the CBA or in the new CBA. What do you think about the 7-inning doubleheaders? Because I know that's something right now that they're trying. They said initially that they won't bring back for 2022. Now they're, it's kind of trending back to more of a possibility. Where is your thoughts in terms of having those 7-inning doubleheaders?
Yeah, when I was a player, that's all we wished is 7-inning doubleheaders. I mean, 2 9-inning doubleheaders. That's a lot of game. You're there literally the entire day. You're exhausted for the next day. It's very taxing. So I think 2 7-inning games make a lot of sense. Not sure why they haven't gone to it yet, but hopefully it does happen. I think the players would really appreciate it.
And you had some time in the National League. You've had some big league plate appearances. What about the DH?
Yeah, that one I actually just heard about it the other day. I know there's pitchers that consider themselves to be hitters, so I know they're upset. But for a guy like me that had back issues and literally couldn't swing a bat, I would have been really happy to have that. But I know there's guys out there that like to swing the bat, so and I used to like watching that. But it was always disadvantage being an American League player because you faced 9 actual hitters, whereas National League you would have the pitcher, and sometimes the pitcher wasn't the greatest hitter. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about it yet. I haven't really thought about it too much.
And did you played with Zach Greinke, right? That's one of the better hitting pitchers in the game. I mean, he probably took his craft really seriously, huh?
Oh, very, very. Him and Giovanni Gallardo that year,
yeah,
they were together. They competed to see who was the better hitter. They were both really good.
And obviously, I think another big topic is the shift. And hitters, I guess they're either told to just hit the ball the other way, and then hitters are complaining. So what is your take on the shift? Did you like the shift behind you? Was that something that you could give or take with?
So for me, I'd rather get beat on, well, how do I put this? So I didn't care for it too much. I hated getting weak contact to, let's say, where the shortstop's supposed to be, and it gets through. I hated that. Absolutely hated it. I'd rather someone hit a rocket up the middle and no one's there because they're playing their positions. So for me, I didn't like the shift too much, and I'm sure it helped out a lot. They do it for a reason, and there's data behind it. So the numbers show they should play a certain way, but I didn't care for it too much. I felt like a lot of times I'd fool someone with the changeup, and everybody's on the right side of the field, and this guy hits it off the end of the bat, and it's going to third base, routine ground ball, and ends up being a double. So it wasn't my favorite thing.
And soon we'll get to see second basemen being athletic again, and we don't have to, because right now nobody's diving on the infield because everybody's already where they're supposed to be. So
exactly.
We'll get to see that soon. And then finally, obviously, you played for Team Mexico twice in the WBC in 2013 and 2017. What did that mean to you?
Just once.
Oh, just once?
Yeah.
So what did that mean to you to kind of represent your country?
Oh, it meant a lot. I wish I would have done better for them. I didn't pitch very well that day. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. A lot of great teammates that were there. I got to meet a lot of good guys. One of them I still talk to, Romo. He incredible competitor. Just the guy's pitched forever. He's had a great career. Very proud of him. But yeah, it was an experience. It was a lot of fun. It meant the world to be able to play for your country. Again, that year that I played, we should have gone further. We had a really good team, and my game, I didn't pitch very well, and we had another game where we should have lost. But errors happen, and it's the way it goes. But yeah, no, it was a great time. Again, got to meet a lot of people, great people, and we had a blast.
And finally, again, as I mentioned before, out of the game for a few years now. What's going on with you now? What's any plans for the future? Anything going on?
No, not right now. It's been 2 years now, 2 seasons I've missed, and I've been happy just being part of the family. You're gone for 8 months out of the year, and once the kids are in school, you don't really see them until they're back in summer, off for the summer. But yeah, I've been able to hang out with them. My daughter plays volleyball and my son plays soccer, so getting to do those things that I've missed out on for so many years, it's meant the world to me. It's been so much fun. I don't really do much other than I still work out. I like to go work out a few times a week, and then I play a round of golf once a week. The back can only take so much, so I try to get at least one round a week in. And then dealing with this house, just been 3 years of construction, and it's finally done. So I've had a lot on my plate the last few years, and but yeah, it's been a blast. We'll see in a few more. Maybe if I get bored or something, I'll once the kids are older and they're off doing their own thing, maybe go back to coach or try coaching or something. But right now, I'm very happy with everything, the way things are going, and golf.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that how you said, yeah, I get to be a dad and golf.
The
two great things going on in your life.
It's the only, you're a husband, you're married, you're happy, and the kids, and you're a father, and you enjoy all that stuff. But other than that, I literally have nothing else going on but golf.
Yeah. Married, dad, golf. That's it right there.
That is it.
Anyways, Marco, I appreciate the time, and I appreciate you joining me.
Steven, thank you so much for having me.
And of course, all of you guys at home could listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at RizzoCast. So go check that out as well. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.